of Fisker Inc., and welcome to the 2023 Annual Meeting of Stockholders, which I will now call to order. I'd like to introduce the other members of the Fisker Board of Directors: Dr. Gita Fisker, CFO and COO of Fisker; Nadine Watt, Wendy Gruhl, Mark Hickson, Bill McDermott, Rod Randall, and Mitch Sulik. Also present are representatives from PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP, our independent public accounting firm, and Christy Pauli of American Election Services will act as the Inspector of Elections of this meeting and has executed an oath of the Inspector of Elections. I will now turn the meeting over to Corey McVelleray, our Senior Counsel of Securities Governance and Compliance and Corporate Secretary, who is acting as Secretary for the meeting. Corey?
Thank you, Henrik. The rules of procedures are posted on the virtual annual meeting website. To conduct an orderly meeting and to give all eligible stockholders and proxy holders an opportunity to participate, we ask that you adhere to these rules at all times. An opportunity will be provided to present questions related to today's proposals. Please follow the instructions provided on the virtual annual meeting screen to submit questions. You can also submit broader business questions, but we have had our Say Retail platform open for 2 weeks, accepting shareholder business questions, and we intend to focus our Q&A session on the top voted questions from that platform. The board fixed April 10th, 2023 as the record date for determining stockholders entitled to notice of and to vote at this meeting. As of the close of business on April 10th, 2023, Fisker had outstanding 197,879,896 shares of Class A common stock, each of which is entitled to 1 vote, and 132,354,128 shares of Class B common stock, each of which is entitled to 10 votes. Based on the tabulation of proxies already received from stockholders, and to the best of our knowledge, there is present at this meeting a quorum for the transaction of business. The final report of the Inspector of Elections will include the votes, if any, of stockholders present and voting at the meeting. It is 8:03 a.m. Pacific Time, and the polls are open for voting. Any stockholders desiring to vote should do so at this time through the internet using the virtual annual meeting website. We have 3 proposals from the company that stockholders are being asked to approve. First, to elect 2 nominees to our board of directors. Second, to approve on a non-binding advisory basis the compensation of our named executive officers. And third, to ratify the appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers as our independent registered public accounting firm for 2023. Detailed information concerning these proposals is in the proxy statement sent to or made available to Fisker stockholders. We will now have a brief question and answer period on these proposals. If you have a question, please submit your question in the space provided on the virtual meeting screen and follow the instructions provided on the virtual meeting screen. The time allotted for Q&A on the proposals has expired, and we have received no questions. If there's anyone else who wishes to vote at the virtual meeting and who has not yet submitted their vote, all votes should be submitted through the internet using the virtual meeting website at this time because votes cannot be accepted after the polls are closed, which will happen momentarily. We will pause briefly to allow for any additional votes. With all votes being submitted, it is 8:05 a.m. Pacific Time, and the polls are now closed. Based on information we have received from our Inspector of Elections, I will now announce the preliminary voting results for the meeting, which remain subject to the Inspector of Elections' final report. – Both of the nominees for the Board of Directors have been elected. Stockholders have approved on a non-binding advisory basis the compensation of our named executive officers. PricewaterhouseCoopers has been ratified as Fisker's independent registered public accounting firm for the year ending December 31, 2023. Final results of the vote will be recorded as stated in the minutes of this meeting and also filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission on a Form 8-K within 4 business days. This concludes the formal business of the meeting. The 2023 annual meeting is now adjourned. We will now have a brief presentation and Q&A session. Please note that today's discussion includes forward-looking statements about our expectations. Actual results in future periods are subject to risk and uncertainties that could cause our results to differ materially from those projected. These risks include those set forth in Fisker's annual report on Form 10-K under the heading Risk Factors, filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission, as supplemented by other reports and documents Fisker files from time to time with the SEC. With that, over to you, Henrik.
Thank you, Corey, and thanks to all our shareholders and other members of the public that are joining for Fisker's 3rd annual meeting today. And we do have a lot of shareholders, by the way, just so everybody is aware. As of 2023 voting record date, there was approximately 400,000 shareholders. Okay, I'll begin by thanking, first of all our employees and partners for the incredible progress we have made over the last year. And it's definitely been quite an amazing achievement despite several hurdles and difficulties, but we are here today. And I think we have achieved an amazing amount of work in the last 2 years, actually. And now we are entering an exciting new chapter of our business. We had our initial first deliveries in Denmark and Germany last month, and the next phase of volume deliveries will begin in Europe already next week. And that will be followed in the week of 23rd, or on the 23rd of June, actually, we will deliver the first vehicles in U.S. So I'm super excited about both those 2 deliveries. Finally, full speed forward. And our vision of a clean future for all and our mission to create the world's most emotional and sustainable vehicles, we are confident in our business plan and believe it will create tremendous value, financial as well as environmental and social benefits. I'm currently in China, as I mentioned, meeting with key suppliers, discussing our ramp-up plans for 2023 and 24. And I'm also here with our Chinese board member, Daniel Foa, who has joined us today, and also here with Alan Cheng, our general manager in China. And we believe there's a significant opportunity for Fisker and for the Fisker brand here in China and the EV market. We just actually visited a Fisker showroom that will become a Fisker lounge in Shanghai that we plan to open here in China in already this year in Q3. So we will start doing some branding and marketing here in China to start building the brand. I think that's going to be extremely important. We also visited the Magna JV plant here in China, since we are looking at the next step of producing or manufacturing the Ocean here in China, so we can get up to higher volumes of sales here in China. And then finally, we will start the actual deliveries here in China in Q1 next year of the Fisker Ocean. So we are very excited about that. Finally, I also want to just say that we, in this tour over here, it's incredible to see how I actually think that our vehicle, our Fisker Ocean, will stand out. It's got some amazing features that even is unique over in this market, despite there's quite a lot of vehicles on the road over here, EVs. Okay, first let me recap sort of high level what our key milestones was since our last meeting. Going back to last July, we announced Fisker Finance, providing seamless digital financing options for our customers. The retail loan options include vehicles, accessories, and home charging equipment financing. We also reaffirmed our retail financing partners, Chase in the US and Santander Customer Finance in Europe. And last July, as you remember, we sold out all our 5,000 pre-orders for the launch edition Fisker Ocean 1. And that was secured by $5,000 down payments for each customer. In August 2022, we acted swiftly and established a process for U.S.-based Ocean reservation holders to convert into firm orders to potentially retain eligibility for the prior federal EV tax credit. We quickly sold out of our 2023 U.S. allotment for Fisker Ocean Sport and Ultra trim levels through this process. Later in August, we published our inaugural ESG report ahead of the Fisker Ocean start of production, demonstrated our foundational commitment to sustainability and social responsibility. And in the fall, we partnered with Wallbox to provide class-leading competitively priced EV chargers for Fisker owners across the U.S., Canada, and Europe. And we have seen a strong interest from our customers in this great product, even before we start even before everyone started receiving their Oceans. In fact, I can say that I've used it myself, and it's really, really good. The Fisker Ocean won Green Car Journal's Green SUV of the Year 2023 in November. I think that really underlined our commitment to building the world's most sustainable vehicles. And during the first quarter of 2023, we announced ChargePoint as our North American partner for public charging solution and Deft Power as our European public charging platform provider. Their combined networks provide Fisker Ocean customers with access to over 600,000 charging points. In March, the Fisker Ocean Extreme achieved a combined WLTP range of up to 707 kilometers or 440 UK miles. That's our European range that's certified in Europe, and it actually exceeded our previous estimates. And this impressive result represents the longest range of any battery electric SUV currently sold in Europe today. Earlier this quarter, the Fisker Ocean completed all applicable U.S. federal motor vehicle safety standards testing. Across the pond, the Fisker Ocean received European certification as well. We also established our first retail customer location at the Vienna and Copenhagen Center Pluses, which were followed by the opening of 2 Fisker showrooms in Munich. In May, we partnered with Ample to deliver battery swappable Fisker Ocean vehicles swappable batteries for Fisker Ocean vehicles. And this is mainly for fleet customers, and that will start in Q1 next year. I think it'll be a great test to see how this will evolve and maybe ultimately also become available for individual customers. And then in May, we also delivered our first Fisker Ocean vehicles, as I mentioned earlier. And then a few weeks ago, we began ramping up production to meet customer demand for the Fisker Ocean. And most recently, we received formal EPA range and approval to sell in the U.S., which is really the final milestone to have be able to sell our vehicle fully in all states in the U.S. And the EPA range, as you already know probably, achieved 360-mile range, which also was above our original estimates. And it really means that the Fisker Ocean actually has the longest range of any SUV, at least in our segment, for sale here in the U.S. as well. So we achieved many significant milestones thus far, and I'm excited to begin the next phase with customer deliveries, and that will start already next week in Europe, actually exactly on June 15th, and then it will start the following week in the U.S. On June 23rd. And of course, if I give an Ocean update, I think it's clear to everybody that our number one priority right now is launching and ramping a high-quality Fisker Ocean vehicle with class-leading features and range. So emails have already gone out to initial customers, and we are making preparations for the first wave of customer deliveries. As I said already, we have trained our teams. We have opened several delivery centers, so we are really ready to start deliveries. And I think we're the only startup, by the way, that's undertaking a dual continent homologation strategy, where we both homologate in the U.S. and Europe simultaneously. And this really is a de-risking strategy where we are able to actually take advantage of the two markets, whichever is the most, I would say, fastest growing. But obviously, we are going into the same market at the same time. Okay. We are also rapidly expanding our footprint. We continue to expand our Center Pluses and lounges, and will be primarily physical touch point for customers will be the Center Pluses and the lounges. And the lounges, as you know, will serve as showrooms. And the Center Pluses is delivery centers where we also will do test drives. And in the Center Pluses, we will also have service centers where we will do service for our customers. And of course, we also have service partners, but that's something where it's not really a touch point for our customers. We will bring Fisker Oceans to our service partners and bring them back to our customers if these service centers can do the work or are nearer to our customers than our own service centers. We also expect to really, I would say, increase our brand awareness once we get the Oceans out in customers' hands. Hopefully people will have a great experience with these vehicles and talk about it on social media. And of course, we also are planning eventually some journalist drives here in July. So all this will start, I think, really moving everything forward really fast. I think we should remember still that we have 65,000 reservations. And so I don't think we're necessarily in a desperate need to start getting a whole bunch more orders, but obviously we want to keep building the order book and we want to build the brand awareness of Fisker so we can have always a really sustainable growth in our reservation, our sales, that can also meet our future expectations of going way beyond where our plans are this year in terms of production and sales. And by the way, I've driven the car on the road quite a lot over the last couple of months, crisscrossing Central Europe and U.S. Southwest. Most recently, I took a road trip from California to Arizona, and I can say the vehicle handles amazingly. It's super quiet, really comfortable. And when I say super quiet, people might say, yeah, but it's an electric car. Yeah, but super quiet means we actually spend a ton of time making sure that the noise and vibration in this vehicle is really well damped. Because yes, you can have a quiet electric vehicle, but if you hear, a whole bunch of noise and vibrations from the road or from the tires or little stones that chip up, inside the wheel wells, etc., then it's not very pleasant. So we definitely took care of that. And I can say it's probably it's not probably the best electric vehicle I have driven when it comes to this type of really nice balance between handling, road holding, and comfort. And also, by the way, while I was driving around in here in the U.S. And the desert, etc., then the team over in Europe was pushing the Ocean to its limits on the Autobahn in Germany, where there's no speed limit. And I think I posted a video of this, and I also got great feedback that showed that the Ocean effortlessly accelerates all the way past 205 kilometers an hour or over about 128 miles an hour. And it, even at those high speeds, which I have also personally driven, again, super stable, handles really well. And when a vehicle handles extremely well at 125, 128 miles an hour, then obviously it handles amazingly at our normal speed limits at whatever, 65, 70, 75 miles an hour. As we have mentioned previously, while we are prioritizing our Ocean 1 and Extreme trims all the way till September this year, we have recently produced already several Ocean Ultras and Sport trims on the production lines at Magna, and we want to ensure production readiness of those trims ahead of time, and we anticipate customer deliveries of those trims, as we originally stated, will begin this September this year. I'm also very excited about the Ocean. Just generally, when I look at all the features and the innovative kind of things that we have in this vehicle that I want everybody to sort of slowly discover, there's quite a few things that we actually haven't even revealed yet that we kind of want to surprise people with, and I'm really looking forward to that when people get hold of the Ocean and see if they can discover some of these features. So again, full speed ahead on the Ocean. I'm super excited about it. I actually think we're going to surprise our customers. I think we're going to surprise our competitors, and I can't wait also to get in this vehicle again when I get back to the U.S. Super excited. Then let me just talk a little bit about our future product strategy because that's actually in the works as we speak. We are building drivable prototypes right now, and somebody might say, well, why didn't you just launch the Ocean first and then think about that? Well, if you do it that way, you wouldn't see new products from us until 3 or 4 years from now. However, we are looking at some new products that will arrive, special edition of the Ocean, already in end of this year, beginning of next year. We are very excited about that one. I think we're going to enter a whole new segment, which is currently occupied by pretty much gasoline hardcore off-roaders, and then that's a pretty big market here in the U.S. I just discovered here in China it's a very good market as well. So I think this is going to be exciting. And of course, we have announced that we're going to have our inaugural investor and analyst event on August 3rd this year, where we're going to showcase these products. We're going to showcase the final design of the PEAR. This is a very radical vehicle, which is, I would say, probably the most agile EV designed for a real versatile mobility. And what I mean by that is we have designed it so it can be used for many other things than just private mobility or individual passenger car. We also have designed it for ride-hailing, ride-sharing, food delivery. And when I say that, that means there's specific elements in the vehicle that is designed for that. And I think that's a world first, quite frankly. We then also will showcase what we call our technology carrier, the Ronin, which is a supercar, really, with a lot of things that have never been done before as well in that vehicle. And our aim is to get at least potentially the world's longest range. That's what we are really developing for that vehicle. So we'll be showcasing that. But most of all, it'll probably sort of showcase how the future of Fisker design will look in the years to come. And then finally, we will show a vehicle we call Alaska. That's the project name, Alaska. And that's really our take on a very unique, super sporty pickup truck. I think that's a real hot market. And I think we want to participate in that. We have designed this vehicle to sit on a modified Ocean platform, which allows us to bring this vehicle fairly quickly to market. It's going to, I think, handle amazingly for a pickup truck, both on-road and off-road. So very excited to show that vehicle. That will definitely be radical different than anything else we have seen in the market so far. And as is part of our philosophy, these vehicles will all have at least 4 features or performance specifications that would lead in their segment, or even features that don't even exist. So I'm personally super excited about showing the vision and the future of Fisker on August 3rd this year. And of course, all this will bring us with some additional vehicles later after 2026. All these vehicles, by the way, is planned before 2026. But we will add a few more. And by 2027, our goal is still a target of 1 million vehicles a year. And that's why we, for example, are over here in China to look at the market in China, because this is the biggest market in the world. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. And have some comments here from Daniel Foa, our board member here in China. But let me just start with, before I get to that, let me just go to the next part, which is in this investor event, we will also talk about some of the new technologies that we are planning. And for example, our Blade computer we have talked about will showcase and go more into details. So our CTO will talk about that as well on August 3rd. But maybe just before I move on to ESG, I just want to hand it over to Daniel Foa, our board member, to just give his perspective of the market potential here in China for the Fisker Ocean. Daniel?
Thank you, Henry. Firstly, China represents a third of all global vehicle sales, which is roughly 26 million cars in 2022. Of which electric vehicles accounted for 6 to 7 million, and that's roughly 25% market share. In 2023, year to date, it's grown to around 27% market share. Secondly, the premium and affordable luxury segment is growing faster than the general segments. Fisker fits right into that segment with its unique features, history, safety, and design. China has always had a high acceptance of high-quality, traditional international automotive brands. There has been a rapid shift to electrification, both from the government policies and from consumer behavior. Fisker is one of only 2 EV-only international companies which are viable alternatives to traditional brands. This will enable us to be on the short list for consumer purchase decisions, but with a more feature-rich product. As a new international EV brand, This presents a vast opportunity for Fisker in China. So thank you, Henrik.
Yep. Thank you, Daniel. I'm super excited about this market as well. And now that we are getting moving in U.S. and Europe, we're getting ready for China. All right, let's just here end a little bit with one of our strongest brand pillars, of course, ESG. So we aim to produce the world's most sustainable vehicles, and it's not just the Ocean, but also the other vehicles that we are planning. And at Fisker, we put the planet and the people first. Sustainability and environmental consideration is part of every decision that we make at Fisker. And you've heard us say that we're building the world's most sustainable vehicles. Our upcoming vehicle life cycle and analysis will demonstrate just how we are doing this in our first vehicle, the Ocean. From sourcing to manufacturing to vehicle's life to recycling. We measure ourselves against the best-in-class available data and outperformed everyone. 2 years ago, we announced an aspirational goal to create a 100% climate-neutral vehicle by 2027. Our Ocean Lifecycle Assessment will show our industry-leading carbon footprint on the Ocean and provide us with a clean blueprint to achieve our aggressive 100% climate-neutral vehicle goal. So as we now are starting delivering the Ocean, of course, there's going to be some bumps, and I'm sure we're going to have to jump over some more hoops because it's definitely not going to be easy. The environment is still difficult. But one thing I think we have shown at Fisker, we're good at jumping high. So I'm confident whatever we're going to come up against, we're going to find some way to solve it. We have done it so far. We have an amazing team. We have grown the team to about 1,000 people, and we keep growing our team. And I'm confident in this team that we can actually take the position of a global leader in the EV segment. So thank you very much. And for that now, I would like to say that we have some amazing, and we are very fortunate to have so many, by the way, supported shareholders. And we do have a lot, as I mentioned, over 400,000. And many of these shareholders, of our shareholders, and maybe many of you are listening in here, have actually submitted questions for us. And we are very excited to answer these questions here today. And we have actually put these questions together in order of importance in terms of basically electing which of the questions that was most asked. But I will hand this over now to Frank, our head of investor relations, to talk a little bit more about that. Frank, over to you.
Thanks, Henrik, and thank you everybody who've submitted questions. As Henrik mentioned, we've received quite a few, and we'll get through as many as we can that have been submitted through the Say Technology platform, as well as some that have come in through the meeting. The first question we'll take, how many Fisker Oceans have been produced and delivered to paying customers so far? And have there been any major challenges delivering cars to customers, or have the deliveries been relatively smooth?
Well, let me just say, just since last week, we have actually already produced over 300 Oceans. So you can see we are already scaling up really fast. And of course, we only delivered very few Oceans right now, so I don't think we can really talk about smooth or not smooth. But I will say, as we start delivering the Oceans next week and the week after in the U.S., I think we will see how smooth it's going. As I mentioned earlier, I think we have really trained our staff, spent a lot of time setting up the infrastructure for deliveries, both in terms of logistics, having our product associates ready to explain the vehicles. And I'm sure there will be some hiccups here and there, but like I said, we've got an amazing team, and we've got a great car, so I'm very confident about it. Of course, as we accelerate these deliveries, it's going to be something where we have to probably adjust because eventually we are talking about delivering hundreds of vehicles per day. But I'm pretty confident that we have a good plan from that.
Thank you. The next question, how does Fisker plan to stay competitive given the recent price cuts from competitors? And will any options on the Ocean become cheaper or included as standard?
Well, first I want to remind everyone that we priced the Ocean about 3 years ago in 2020, and we have not raised the prices since then. And, in the Ocean, I think we have an extremely competitively priced vehicle, specifically when you consider the many features that you can't even find on other vehicles in our class. And, we got the class-leading range on the top model. We got California mode. We got solar roof. We got over 550 horsepower with boost. We got digital 4D radar. We got interior space, specifically when you sit in the rear, that is probably better than most other cars in our class as well, specifically when you take into considering the size, a similar size vehicle. Any other similar size vehicle, I don't think have the type of interior space we have. So I think it's a vehicle that's already is extremely competitively priced. And also, again, remember, yes, there might have been some competitors or other companies that have lowered their pricing, but there's also been the same companies who actually have raised their prices multiple times over the past 12 to 18 months. So a recent price action appears to really have partially normalized the pricing of those vehicles. So at this point, I don't really see any reason to change that. However, that said, we continue to look at pricing. We are a fast-moving company. We can make a decision within, 10 minutes if we want to change our pricing or do something with our option pricing. And we're going to have to take a look at the market, and we'll act as soon as it's needed.
Thank you, Henrik. The next top rated voted question was, exactly how many vehicles are currently in production and what is the expected output in the upcoming 2 quarters?
Okay, as we guided in our earnings, we plan to produce 1,400 to 1,700 vehicles in Q2, and the remainder to reach our calendar 2023 production forecast of 32 to 36,000 units will be produced in the latter half of the year. We expect to ramp up throughout the summer, reaching steady-state production of 6,000 units per month later this year. Now, as Henrik mentioned, we started producing vehicles last week and have produced over 300 vehicles. From now till the end of June, we will continue to ramp up on a daily and a weekly basis to achieve our targets. For example, next week, we will go to producing 75 units a day and so on and so forth. As we are entering into this significant phase of ramp, we are ensuring that we receive high-quality parts and are diligently looking into both the quality of parts coming in and the quality of cars, both from a mechanical, aesthetic, and a complete vehicle integration that goes through multiple lines of end-of-line testing.
Thank you, Gita. Next question. When can we expect Asia homologation and deliveries, and is Fisker still on target to deliver 32 to 36,000 Oceans in 2023?
Okay, I'll take that one. Let me start with the volume target. So our guidance was to produce 32,000 to 36,000 Oceans in 2023, and we're still on track to meet this guidance. However, there is an important distinction between the number of vehicles produced and the number of vehicles delivered, given our back-end weighted production ramp and the long delivery time to get to certain destinations. For example, leaving Graz in Austria and finally reaching California, for example, with boat and everything else, could take about between 4 to 6 weeks. So obviously the vehicles that are produced in December this year, as an example, if shipped to the U.S., they wouldn't reach U.S. this year. So obviously there's going to be a little differentiating between how many we produced and how many we actually delivered. But we're going to try to do our best to actually manage that by trying to, in December, for example, probably produce more vehicles for Europe than the U.S. Okay, let me also then answer about Asia and homologation and deliveries there. So let me just say first, for example, as I just mentioned, with China, we already are working on homologation for China. In fact, all the countries that we plan to enter, we already, as we engineered the Ocean, took into consideration that we were going to enter these markets. So it's more of a formality. Like I mentioned, we expect the homologation for China to be ready in Q1 next year. So obviously there's a few other things we need to do We need to have the entire user interface changed into Chinese. Now, that's not the biggest thing, but we also do need to add some more local content, local apps, etc., to be really competitive over here in the Chinese market, and that's something we're going to do by that time. And then, as I mentioned, we will take the time from here Q3 this year when we open a showroom in Shanghai to also build the brand so we get really ready for deliveries. And we're also planning to create a China website and be able to actually take deposits from potential Chinese customers or reservation holders. So all this will happen here this year. When it then comes to India, we'll do a very low volume this year. We plan to send over some vehicles already in July. We obviously need right-hand drive vehicles. You're not allowed to import left-hand drive vehicles in India. So we do need right-hand drive vehicles, and that production is starting in July. So we're also on target with that. And then there's a few other countries we are looking at, for example, South Korea. We also eventually will look at there, but I don't see that happening until next year. We don't have a firm date for South Korea yet. All right. Next one.
Thank you, Henrik. Next question. Are you currently facing any supply chain issues, things like basic car components, chips, etc.? And are your suppliers able to ramp up their production to meet the 6,000 Oceans per month production target? And has Magna been able to ramp up according to your production targets?
Let me take the question with respect to Magna first. Absolutely. Magna has a world-class production facility and very skilled labor, and they have been able to very quickly learn how to assemble the vehicle in a high-quality manner, and they are able to ramp up according to our production targets. So far, with respect to supply chain with chips, we haven't seen any chip-related supply chain issues. As we have been going into our ramp stages, we saw some quality issues with certain suppliers like interior parts and seating, but those are promptly being worked on. We also saw there was a couple of smaller suppliers, family-owned businesses that are adjusting to our brisk ramp-up, and several other suppliers now belting up with their Tier 2s and Tier 3. One key supplier required banking of parts just because of the way they produce their parts, so we are working very closely with them on ensuring we get to the volumes. We expect to get to a 6K volume in September and are closely working with all the suppliers to achieve this run rate. Back to you.
Thank you, Geeta. Next question. The touchscreen UI demo from Fisker's Instagram appears to show a somewhat laggy UI experience. What chips are powering the infotainment system for Ocean models, and will OTAs improve the software performance, and when could customers expect software updates?
Well, first of all, I think you have to wait to make your final judgment until you actually sit in an Ocean and drive it. And I've done it several times, and I really don't feel there's any lag at all. I think the system works amazingly. So unlike the hardware aspects of the vehicle, we expect continued innovation and progress with the vehicle software. And we have taken advantage, actually, the past few months to deep dive into all possible customer scenarios, debug and perform some additional testing to provide customers with the best experience before the deliveries. So we actually have done a little bit of improvement here in the last couple of months. The software of the vehicle will never truly be done, and there will always be room to improve functionality and implement new features. We do plan to launch OTA updates over time, and actually fairly continuously, and improve the customer experience, add new features, etc. We don't necessarily go into details about what chips we're using and how we're doing it. But for example, when you look at a reaction time in a screen and the user experience, it also has something to do not only with the chips, but actually what type of features you're running at the same time, and how can you do something smart to make everything run faster. And that's something our experienced in-house team is working on constantly to improve. But I'm confident that with the vehicles we deliver to customers here next week, we have an amazing user interface.
Thanks, Henrik. Next question combines two of the top voted questions. Who makes the batteries for Fisker, and can you tell us about the types of batteries Fisker uses in its vehicles and how they compare to those used by other EV brands?
Okay, so CATL is our battery partner for the Fisker Ocean, and they are the largest EV battery manufacturer globally. In fact, we spent today the entire day with CATL and with the management of CATL going through the Ocean program, going through the rest of the year, and of course exploring all future possibilities for our future product pipelines, and Henrik discussed. As we have publicly announced, we have a long-term agreement where we have booked 5 gigawatt-hour annual battery capacity at CATL for the Fisker Ocean SUV, with mechanisms to expand over a period of time. I just want to remind everybody that Fisker was the first to do a dual chemistry sourcing, LFP for our base vehicle and NMC for our higher trims that allowed us to provide high value to our customers and best-in-class range. I think to answer the question, how do these batteries compare to those used by other EVs? Of course, LFP and NMC is available in terms of chemistries to other companies too. However, with our combination in terms of how we package the battery, our powertrain design, and complete vehicle integration, what we were able to achieve is a world-class range where we achieved 707 kilometers on WLTP, 440 UK miles, and 360 miles with respect to EPA.
Thank you. Next question. What other cities in the U.S. do you have planned for Fisker Experience Centers or lounges?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think our Fisker customer facilities will be represented in all major states and cities where EV sales and our reservation holders are most concentrated in the beginning. I mean, that makes sense for us to do it that way. But finally, I would say some of the next ones that we're opening up is going to be New York, Miami, Chicago, San Francisco, and I could go on and on. But finally, in the future, at one point, we will have at least one lounge in every state in America. And I also believe eventually we will have at least one Center Plus in each state. We're already setting up also parts facilities in several places here in the U.S. So that's all an ongoing process. And obviously, we cannot set all this up right away, and it doesn't make sense. So we are trying to really go into the states where we see the most reservations. And the rest of the areas, we will then do pop-ups to make sure that we try to reach all areas of the U.S. as fast as we can.
Thank you. Next question. Has the potential upcoming recession and rising interest rates affected Fisker's financial health and reservation order numbers? And have you taken steps to mitigate risks and streamline your business? And do you foresee the need to raise more money through future stock sales?
We are, of course, mindful of the macroeconomic headwinds that can impact consumers with respect to inflation and just overall economy. However, just some thoughts on the economy. Payrolls rose about 339,000 in May, much better than expected in a resilient labor market. I believe interest rates should start easing off towards the year end. U.S. inflation rate was 4.93% compared to 4.98% previously last month, and compared to 8.26% last year. Of course, higher than target. But I think there is signs of easing coming, and I think this provides clearly a great easing of the macroeconomic headwinds moving forward. Now, with respect to Fisker, with our asset-light strategy, we do manage our business extremely prudently throughout the cycle. And as I highlighted during our earnings, we've navigated through these choppy times in a very, very thoughtful manner, in a very capital-light, asset-light manner. With respect to our customers, we've made very attractive deals both with Chase in the U.S. and Santander in Europe, so they can avail some attractive rates as they would want to borrow probably money, and of course utilize both our web and our app for any loans they would like to take. Finally, the question, do we foresee the need to raise more money through stock sales in the future? As I've always repeatedly said, we regularly monitor all funding channels. We evaluate every single opportunity across the full spectrum of debt and equity instruments to maintain a prudent liquidity profile, and we appropriately support our asset-light model. My job is to make sure that we have liquidity, to make sure that we have capital for all our different programs, and to bring our great products to market.
Thank you. Next question. Any plans to increase marketing? It seems people haven't heard of the Ocean yet. Good marketing can help drive up stock prices, lead to increased reservations. And any comments on marketing efforts?
Absolutely. You're going to see a huge increase in marketing this year. We're going to, of course, deliver a lot more informational content on social media as we now are starting to get production vehicles, and I think our reservation holders and then now customers will actually help drive that content. So we are actually planning to engage with our first customers, or even continue engaging with our customers who are interested to take part of some of the development of the social media content. I think some of the best content is actually to hear directly from a customer. So absolutely, we're going to do a lot of work there now that we start getting cars into customers' hands. We're also planning more marketing events, as well as certain aspects related to television, movies, etc. Something we are planning again. And of course, all these things demand to have many cars available, which we will have. So I think you're going to be seeing a lot of that. Also, a very good marketing point, obviously, is the more vehicles you get on the road, the more awareness that becomes around these vehicles. And every time somebody buys an Ocean and are the first person on the block to have one, then obviously the rest of the people is aware of this vehicle. So I think this will all build out this year, and I expect that everybody will know what a Fisker is by the end of this year.
Thank you. Next question. Fisker has recently announced the potential for future collaboration. What's the nature of the collaboration, the intention, the level of integration for the collaboration that you're looking for? Is it partnerships or mutual interest being sought?
No, look, I believe in tangible collaboration, not just sort of talk and interest. So we are here in China to really look at potential collaborations. We are flying tomorrow to see a automotive group, car company, to talk about platform sharing collaboration. We are talking to other groups about sharing models, model development, platforms. We haven't made a firm deal with anybody yet, because then, of course, I would be able to talk about it. But since we haven't made a firm deal, I cannot say too many details about it, but we are in discussion with multiple partners. And I think the most important part of the collaboration, which I see an advantage for us and our potential partner, would be to get to market quicker with lower cost and higher volume, sharing, purchasing, sharing certain part of platforms, maybe even sharing production, sharing certain logistics, for example, parts, service centers, etc. So all these are things we're looking at, and the reason is I see a huge opportunity over the next 3 years to take very large, maybe unnatural market share if we have enough product and enough production capacity. And that's something I think that has hindered most startups as they sort of plan their first 2-3 years of existence. They have not been able to live up to really the acceleration that they, if they could have done it, maybe could have grown much faster. So that's something that we are looking to see if we can take a new way and do it together with somebody else, some other partner, where we can both benefit from it, because I think the market's really right now. I think it's happening right now. Just being here in China, seeing the immense growth, the millions of EVs on the street, knowing that over here, as Daniel said, we would be the only other international pure EV brand here in China. Just think about that. There's probably more than 100 local brands here. And we are just one of two if you want to choose an international brand. So I think there's some huge possibilities, and we are weighing out some different proposals and ideas, and I do expect we could do something sooner than later.
Thank you, and we have time for two final questions. Next one, does the EPA range of 360 miles include the benefits of the solar roof driving per charge, or is that additional?
No, that's actually an additional benefit is the solar roof. We actually did have a discussion with the EPA and their team, and unfortunately, they were pretty clear with us that they actually haven't developed a way to give us an official EPA rating yet. And I was joking with them and said, well, maybe we will offer a car with solar only, so what EPA range are we going to get? And they did look sort of a little surprised there and wondered what they were going to do. But no, we haven't got that. That is not part of it, so it's an extra benefit. And I think we have already seen with the EPA range, by the way, and even in Europe, that we are actually pretty close. If you drive reasonably and don't go too crazy on the accelerator or break the speed limit, you're going to get pretty close to the ranges we have. And I would also say that we have a very efficient car. One of the things that we announced was we have 113 kilowatt hour, but that's the full battery. The actual usable energy in the battery is about 106, a little more than 106 kilowatt hour. So if you put that into perspective with a 360-mile range, or in Europe, the 707 kilometers, 440 miles, I think we have a really efficient vehicle. Now, some vehicles are using mainly aerodynamics, which means they kind of look like a fastback, a little bit of like egg shape, a little bit like a soap bar. Not that exciting, but they have great aerodynamics. However, that really only works when you do a constant higher speed. And most of us do a lot of daily driving in city traffic and keep changing speeds, not necessarily that fast, and stop and go traffic. And when it comes to that type of driving, a big battery pack is actually the only thing that works to get you the long range, not aerodynamics.
Thank you, Henrik. And the final question, as an Ocean One reservation holder, how will my vehicle be repaired if there's an unfortunate accident or mechanical issue? Maintenance or service centers don't seem to be popping up to handle this if and when it comes.
I think that's not necessarily true. We have more than 1,000 service centers available from the first car we deliver here in the U.S. When you have accidents, then obviously you have normal shops that repair accidents. They're not repaired by dealers neither. They're sent to specific workshops which are approved, and we have already done approvals both in Europe and U.S. Like I mentioned earlier, we have our center plazas, which would be for something very serious, something like taking out a battery, which I hope will hopefully never really happen. But in terms of normal service and warranty work, we have all that planned out, and I don't think we have any areas where we deliver cars where we can't make sure you get service within days. It's just not going to be very long. Even if you live very far away in some sort of remote location, we'll come and pick up your car, make sure it's serviced. And by the way, if you check our warranty, we have some of the best warranties in the world on our vehicle. You don't have to pay anything for our service for many, many years. It's all included, no matter what happens, as long as, of course, it's not something you break on purpose. Then it's something where we'll take care of it, we'll fix it. And we are very confident about this because of the quality of the vehicle, the quality of our partners. So that's something that I think obviously only time will tell. But I think we have set up a really good service network. And I think the reason people happen to ask where's the service center, because other car makers actually make you drive over to that service center. And they actually make you spend half an hour filling out papers and then another half an hour to rent the car. And then in the end of the day, you have to drive that car back there, give the rental car back, again fill out papers. You don't have to do any of that with us. You just go on your app, book an appointment, we pick up the car, you chill out, we'll give you a voucher for an Uber or Lyft. And if it's, of course, several days, we'll give you a voucher for a rental car if that's needed. We hope that's not going to be needed very often. So I think our experience is the future experience of the future consumer, not an old world experience. We're not interested in that.
Thank you, Henrik. That's all the time we have for the Q&A today. I'd like to thank everyone and hand it back over to you, Henrik, for any closing remarks.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for joining. This has been an important stockholder meeting for all of us. We're excited to begin volume deliveries in Europe and US, as I mentioned, next week in Europe and the week after in the US. And I can't wait until next year's stockholder meeting to review all the milestones we'll achieve and the value that we have created. And believe me, I really do want to create value. So I'm super excited for these next steps. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you. That concludes today's call.
Wait. All right. That is the end of the third annual meeting of shareholders. That was actually pretty cool. Just under an hour. Took about a page and a half, actually two pages of notes. So yeah, that was good. What did you guys think?
Exciting. There's a lot of good things going on.
Yeah, definitely agree. They covered a lot of questions, more than I thought they would have.
Yeah.
So that was good too.
More than the earnings call, right?
Yeah.
Seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, and that last question about service I thought was interesting. I don't know if that was a change in the MO or what, but I did hear something about services included. And I know in the manual it said something about service intervals and different things like that. So we have some stuff to clear up there at some point. I'll go through some of the notes that I have. I'd love to hear kind of some of the takeaways that you guys have. But one interesting note from the very get-go was that individual shareholders increased about 100,000 from last year to this year. So I remember I went to my notes from last year and it was around 300,000 individual shareholders own a share of Fisker stock or more, one share or more. And now it's approximately 400,000 shareholders. So I thought that was an interesting tidbit right at the get-go. I ended up doing a kind of like what I thought was to be expected during today's annual meeting last night or yesterday afternoon. And most everything that I mentioned was covered. There wasn't too much that Fisker said that I didn't mention in that little write-up that's on the site right now. But what I thought was kind of interesting was the lounges. The Lounge and Center Plus locations, as we know, they will have test drives. There'll be service centers. A part of that segment, when Henrik was talking, he did mention around planning journalist drives in July. I know that's been a hot topic for a lot of people. They want to see, more than just the handful of people that got to test drive back in November. So July 2023, that's not far. We're, well into June. So who knows when in July, but I'd say less than 2 months, right? We're going to see some test drives by journalists. That'll be good. I would expect and I didn't hear this, but I would expect the lounge to be open by then over in Los Angeles. That gives the company enough time to get that sorted out. Maybe it'll be the end of this quarter. The big takeaway, I think, was at the beginning, and it was around production. And it sounds like the company's on track. They said that next week, they will start producing 75 Fisker Oceans a day. I think that was like the big takeaway, at least the takeaway for me. And we do know that they had the goal that they set for themselves of 1,400 to 1,700 vehicles by the end of Q2, and that would be the end of June, right? So it sounds like with 300 built, that was new data point that we got. They have 1,100 to 1,400 that they still could potentially build in order to achieve and possibly exceed their target. So with 75 a day starting next week, the company could certainly do that. So they probably could exceed it. Very possible to exceed that number, that 1,400 to 1,700. At least that would be very cool if they did. So those are kind of the big takeaways I had. No mention around capital raises, stock issuances, things like that in the Q&A. A little disappointed that they stuck with the same order of just most voted. So now we know kind of the criteria. Hey, it's all about the most votes. So get your questions in early, as early as you can when that platform opens, because the questions that are submitted first are the ones that rise to the top. That's something that we know. What do you guys think? What are some of your things? I have a whole bunch, but I'd love to hear what you guys think is some of your takeaways.
China news for me, aside from Henrik, being there and doing a little tour of the facilities. We got a Shanghai location opening later this year. I think talked about Q3, which is nice for a Fisker Lounge, and then Q1 we're going to get homologation and start deliveries in China, which seems like pretty important news. And if I heard right, that was going to be to a existing Magna facility. I guess it's just a matter of bringing over, not bringing over, but setting up the tooling, the same or thereabouts, same setup that's done in Graz right now.
Yeah, that was big news, actually. The Shanghai.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
News. I just want to add, it wasn't really clear, like if it is the joint venture from Magna location is going to be the initial deliveries or not. So it's, I think China requires the cars have to be built in China for China customers. Usually is the case. Yep. So I'm guessing they're going to try to fast track that Magna plant. The good thing is that Magna plant already does. I think it was that Alpha Fox or something that was very similar platform, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I did hear him say, I'm going to have to listen to the call again, as I'm sure maybe some of the other people that joined in the first time will probably listen to it again. But I did recall them saying that they also visited the Magna JV plant in China. And they're looking to get the higher sales in China deliveries, as you mentioned, Marty, China Q1 2024. But they also met with other key suppliers like CATL. And it was the first time we actually heard from China board member Daniel Foa. Yep. And I guess they're there visiting him and the GM in China. And that was new for us. That was a new bit. I did like the reaffirmation of the August 3rd inaugural investor. I don't know if they call it the investor event or investor day to showcase products. I was hoping to get more information, like, is that going to be I would imagine it's going to be in Los Angeles. We haven't heard where it's actually going to be, though. But I would imagine it's probably going to be at HQ or somewhere thereabouts, maybe a bigger facility in Los Angeles. You guys
see about scoring us some tickets. Let's crash that.
I think everyone's going to get to go. I think everyone's going to get to go, as long as maybe you're a shareholder. If they classified it as an investor day. If you're a shareholder, you get to go. So that would be super cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. And they mentioned they're going to have a PEAR there, maybe different variants of the PEAR possibly. They're going to showcase, the first time I heard Henrik say, he described the Ronin supercar as a technology carrier, but they want to have it as the world's longest range vehicle. Yeah. They're going to have the Alaska pickup truck there. He did say that future product strategy, building the drivable prototypes now so that they have products in the pipeline down the road. One thing that I thought was different, and I'll have to listen to it again, but I did hear something about like 4 products by 2026. I think that was in the investor presentation. And I think it used to say 4 products by 2025, but maybe that's, maybe that was a slip up, not sure. Or maybe it's been changed a little bit. I think that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Right now, it's all about the Ocean. As Henrik mentioned, he said priority is launching and ramping high quality Fisker Oceans. That's top priority for the company, and that makes complete sense. What else do we have here? In the Q&A, I ended up writing down. I guess they're good news for people in the UK. If we have any people listening from the UK, they're on track. Fisker's on track to build right-hand drive vehicles starting in July. So that was expected, and they also expected deliveries in July. That was the latest that I obviously so close to Graz, Austria. Maybe that can happen. They build the right-hand drive vehicles in July and can deliver some to customers in July as well. And they talked briefly about getting those right-hand drive vehicles built for the market in India, for the Indian market, and then
Oh, we broke the internet.
Is he locked up?
For me, yes.
Yeah. Well,
we can fill the dead air for a moment.
We can fill it in.
Yeah, no doubt. One of the things I saw or heard that was interesting was the Alaska is going to be a modified Ocean chassis. Though that'll speed things up, won't it?
Yeah. I think we did hear something about that either last year or the year before that they were going to do that, and it would definitely help the R&D process and getting it to the production phase, especially if it can be used on the same production line as the Ocean. That would be a great way of getting it turbocharged and out to the public, because I think that would be an important vehicle to have, like that compact pickup size that is not really represented in EV form.
I think so too, and it, sporty with off-road capabilities too, something along the lines of like a 4C package. I think that would crush it, especially here in the States. So yeah, talk about final design of the PEAR for that August 3rd investor event. Talking about Ronin and Alaska, and he did say all four is going to be launched by 2026. Now, if we're already 6 months behind on Ocean line, then that would take us 6 months, and 25 becomes 26. I don't think that's the end of the world. But one thing he did say was the Ultra and Sport trims will start delivering in September. I thought I heard that. What else? 1 million vehicles per year for 2027. That's ambitious to say the least. But let's say it's 500,000 in 2027. That is still a boatload of cars. Very technical term there, but.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say was I was a little disappointed that there was no mention of a joint collaboration with Electrify America or any of the other networks for the U.S., which I think they really need to do something in that area. I think ChargePoint is fine for the L2 charging and that area, but yeah, I think they need to work on that.
One of the other things that was kind of an omission or something that I was looking forward to hearing about that didn't hear much about was, the PEAR development at the Lordstown plant and any kind of Foxconn update. And maybe that's one of the folks that they're going to be talking to on their Southeast Asian swing there. That would be nice to have something. I'd love to hear Foxconn announce it actually. Or joint press release to say, hey, this deal is done. The car's going to be built. We've agreed, and everything. Especially since it looks like Lordstown's going to be vacating that space. By the way, their EPA range.
There'll be plenty of room for production.
Yeah, I think so.
It's actually a pretty big factory from what I've heard. Because it used to be, I guess, a GM factory.
It's enormous, and to grow outside of it as well, from what I understand. Let's see here, 65,000 reservations. I think that's kind of hasn't changed.
It's kind of plateaued, I think.
And
until deliveries start.
I talked about surprising our customers and competitors. Cool. I don't mind a little holding back. Get your car, find some neat, cool features, whether those be software related or some type of other product here. The two guys that are Daniel Foa and Alan Chang. They were, I guess, board members. The folks on Stockwoods were talking about how well connected Mr. Foa is, and I just Googled him while we were listening, and sounds like he is in fact pretty well connected, which I suppose you'd have to be to do business in China. So that's kind of interesting and exciting. He actually spoke on the call and said that besides Tesla, Fisker would be the only other global EV only player in the market, which sounds really nice.
Yeah, they definitely have to be in the China market because it's the world's largest market and it's only getting bigger. So yeah, it's pretty important.
He said it was 1/3 of all the cars in the world. 25% of that market share is EV. I don't know how many. I don't know how that.
And that's growing fast.
Oh, yeah.
I have some contacts in Guangzhou and for some Tesla accessory companies, and they were just remarking about how many EVs they see locally. It's just through the roof.
Yeah, no, it grew just from last year 25%. They're saying it's going to be 28% this year. So, approaching a third of all cars. Let's see, we're up to 1,000 employees now. I'm just reading from my notes. There was clarification. It was 300 cars produced last week, and then if we're taking the run rate of 75 per day next week, then that'll ramp up to 375.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that, and I think we did hear something about they had some problems with the seats or some interior details that they were having some parts shortages on, but they've fixed that. So it looks like there's no issues with getting the battery packs. The battery packs, from what they said, looks pretty smooth. So I guess it's just a matter of getting, there's thousands of parts that go into a car, and trying to get that all organized is a mountain of work, I'm sure, for any car company.
No, big time. Did say about the right-hand drive. You mentioned India. I know just from, and you can probably speak this more than I can, about Tesla and India have been having a tussle because Tesla wants to build their cars next door in China and then import them in. And India is being very insistent that you have to build in India, which is their right. And I don't know what facilities we might have access to in India, but launching in that market, that's another very important market. Henrik also says something about plans but no firm date for South Korea. So it seems like, I don't know, I don't know the years on this, if that's 26, 27 or beyond. But India, South Korea, China, those are definitely places we want to be.
Yeah, South Korea is also another CCS country that uses CCS1 like we do. Just a little tidbit of trivia.
Cool. And I think that's all I have on my notes. Obviously, we want to build 1 million cars. That's a huge number.
Yeah,
1 million cars a year by 2020. And right before Sean got cut off, that August 3rd investor event, I'm kind of half joking, but if it is open, I would fly out to LA for that.
I'd like to hear more info on that.
Yeah, if it's open and it's, whether it's at their HQ or, where, that'd be worth seeing, because mostly just to see a PEAR up close. If they have like a drivable prototype or the finished, final design sitting there, that would be neat. I have a reservation for a PEAR already. I don't know where I'm going to put these cars, but they're ordered.
I actually thought of a question for the next meeting. I think is good to ask, since they are working with CATL, is, are they going to be using the new 3rd generation? I think it's called, it starts with a Q. It's Aquilin. The next gen pack. And they also have a next generation sodium battery called EnerQ. So I'd be interested to see if either of those two will be in the PEAR, or in the maybe a slightly updated version of the Ocean at some point in like 2024 or 2025, because the next generation batteries seem to be getting much more efficient, and less weight is a good thing. So Be interesting to see that.
Yeah. Hey, Sean's back. Welcome back.
Do we have sound?
Can you hear me now? No.
Here, I'll private chat him.
Yeah, we were just shooting the breeze while you were away there. One of the things I found interesting, and I think I got this right, but it was, we talked about 400,000 shareholders, which, is a significant increase from last year, as Sean had said. But 197 million shares, is that outstanding? Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would be an average of 492 shares per shareholder. Now, I know there's a lot of institutional, but that also leads me to believe that there's got to be a ton of retail shareholders on this. Just, math-wise.
Or million, excuse me. If you can hear me now.
Yeah, Gary. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, the whole internet shut off here.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was a bummer. He didn't bail just to bail. But thanks for keeping it going, keeping the party going.
Oh yeah, we were like just shooting the breeze here. I had a lot of bullet points, so we just ran through a bunch.
Yeah, I took some notes too. So it was actually a surprising amount of stuff covered.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were right. The 197 million is what I had for the. I think it was the class. It was a Class A stock, and then there was they mentioned Class B shares as well. I didn't write that number down.
Yeah.
So what's your feeling about the grassroots type of marketing that they're looking at for like owners, probably helping them out? That sounds like a new thing to me.
That was a new thing. I actually was talking about that while we got cut off. I kept talking in the event that it was still streaming, but I think that's actually good. People have been asking Fisker to increase marketing spend in order to create brand awareness, because according to that question, no one knows what a Fisker Ocean is or a Fisker is. So I think that's really positive that the company is looking at finding, they said they're going to spend more money to create brand awareness. The most powerful thing, and I agree with Henrik, is that once Fisker Oceans are in customers' driveways or driving around town, that by far is going to be the most powerful form of marketing. And then if customers have a great experience with their Fisker Ocean, the word of mouth, that by far and away is the best marketing you can get. So having customer testimonials as part of the social media marketing strategy will probably be good. We heard something similar, or we saw something similar like that, but it wasn't so much customers, it was like investors and board of directors. When we were doing the pre-ordering of the Ocean One, they reached out and got quotes from certain people, and that didn't go over so well because that was trying to fill the 5,000 reservations, or excuse me, the pre-orders, and people are like, whoa, they can't sell out everything, so now they're asking investors and board of directors to give us quotes. I think I think it's totally different though, but some people might recall that instance. I think grassroots marketing is the best. Referrals, word of mouth, people seeing the physical product. Like if we have, our Ocean parked at the soccer field, or if it's at the grocery store, wherever it may be, people are going to be like, what is that thing? And they see the Fisker badge, and then they'll go Google Fisker, and maybe they'll reserve or pre-order a Fisker Ocean.
Yeah.
So it's great. But he did say informational content on social media will increase. So that'll be a part of that, I would imagine. What do you guys think?
Yeah, cars and coffee. Take it to your local car enthusiast, whatever you call it. If there's
Well, I know I'm going to be having a lot of videos once I get my car, so I'll be covering a lot of stuff. So
yeah, same here. I'm looking forward to getting it. One thing that was not talked about, and I think they're kind of being maybe intentionally vague on it, is we talked about how many cars will be produced, but how many will be delivered. So next week deliveries start, and then a week of the 23rd, U.S. deliveries. Is that going to be 50 cars, 100 cars? What's that going to look like? I know that was a question on many message boards, but it was not something that was addressed because people are like, asking, silly questions on the investor page.
Yeah, I think on our comments at the very beginning,
the difference between deliveries.
Yeah, he definitely covered that. I'm just curious, or what your thoughts are on, how many deliveries there will be in June. We're going to get 100 in Europe, 100
personally. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. Yeah. I keep getting choppiness over here, but I believe there's going to be
a
little delay. I think there's going to be 100 deliveries by the end of June is my guesstimate. And that's based off seeing all the photos and videos. And I know people say that's not a lot of deliveries, only 100, but like that's a big milestone going from 2 to 100 when you only have really 2 weeks left of the month of June when they're going to start. So next week, and then deliveries will start the week of June 19th. I think Henrik actually dropped the date of the 23rd of June for the United States. So that's really not very long, right? If you figure the company's going to produce, they're aiming to produce 1,400 to 7 vehicles by the end of Q2, which would be the end of this month. And we know they have 300 already been produced for customers, presumably. Delivering 100 to me is pretty good. What is that, like 7-8%? And as Henrik mentioned, it takes, I think I heard him say for the first time, I think I heard him say 6 weeks to ship. I got to look at my notes.
4 to 6.
4 to 6
yeah,
weeks.
4 to 6 is what I wrote.
From Graz to the United States. Yeah, I wrote 4 to 6 transport time. So
I'm betting 4 weeks would be East Coast and 6 weeks would be West Coast.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna guess 100. What do you guys think?
Yeah, 100 sounds fair.
Yeah. What about you, Marty?
I'm sorry, I was distracted by a work email. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I know. It's like right in the middle of the workday, right?
Yeah, no,
how
for sure.
Inconvenient.
Yeah, well, I'm technically at lunch, but still checking my phone here. But yeah, because we're right in the noon hour, so this is my lunch break. But yeah, I would love to see anything over a couple of dozen cars. I think is fantastic. 100 cars is fine. If they release the news that we delivered 200 cars this month, and we built another 1,000, and they're in the hopper, so to speak. Great. I think that's a huge, going from no to a handful to hundreds. Next stop is thousands, and that's supposed to take place in July, August. So,
I'm thinking that by the end of the month, the majority of these deliveries are going to be Europe, because that's the only way you can get their delivery in a week or two or less. I think US, it's going to be mostly hitting in July. I'm guessing the first shipment. Somebody in our chat asked about how many have they put on a ship to North America yet, and that would be a good question.
So we do know that if Fisker really wanted to deliver them, I think the email that we got was like that I personally got. I want to say the date was June 26th through July 9th, and July 9th is like a Sunday. Can't imagine Fisker delivering an Ocean to me or a customer on July 9th on a Sunday, but maybe they will. When I got my Tesla Model 3, I think it was delivered actually on a Sunday. So maybe they deliver on the weekends. That would be cool if they did. The interesting thing is so July 9th, the cars already have to be on the boat if it takes 4 to 6 weeks, right? So it was like this week, the cars need to be on the boat, on the boats. One person in the Fisker Audi 4 mentioned that they believe the cars for some initial customers are already here. That's possible too. Somebody mentioned in the forum, they're a longshoreman in San Francisco, and I guess there's talks about strikes at some of the ports in the longshoreman union. So that could adversely affect potentially deliveries, but I would imagine Fisker and Henrik and team are monitoring that closely, just like they are everything else. And they still sound pretty positive. Deliveries are happening later this month here in the United States. So, it's the initial wave. I think the initial waves are going to be smaller than what we all envisioned. So 100 might actually be more than more than what the company plans to do. But then July and August and through the summer, I think we're going to see it, because it takes, like, we already knew the answer to the first question, how many vehicles were delivered to. Like, that was kind of stupid. But like deliveries, how many have been built so far? 300. Okay, that's cool. But we definitely, if I was a company and I was rolling stuff out, I would want to do the next cohort being a little bit larger, so that we can make sure everything works, right? Make sure we have the systems in place in order to not only do a smooth delivery, as that was part of the question, are deliveries smooth, but also are we able then to service the vehicles? Okay, when a customer writes in if they have a problem, how does that system work? How does that customer service rep or whoever's managing that inflow of customer communication, how do they effectively manage that? So like, you don't want to just start delivering them willy-nilly all through, all over the place. You got to kind of gradually ramp. So just like production is going to ramp, deliveries will ramp along with it, is my guess.
Yeah, I think so too. I just want to take this time to remind everybody that there are ports in Florida and Texas. Can't get those dog workers working. There's options, and there's trucks. You can do a lot of things with transportation.
Absolutely, and change in the middle probably too. Maybe you can, I think a lot of those vehicle carriers and just ships in general, they stop at a variety of ports. Some go straight to, there might be some that stop straight, go straight from Europe to Long Beach, but they do make stops along the way. If I recall watching that vehicle carrier that took those Fisker Oceans that was captured by Fisker on video, I believe that ship stopped in a variety of different ports along the way. It didn't just go straight to Long Beach or LA port.
Poseidon Leader.
Yeah, Poseidon Leader. So what else did you guys, I don't know what you covered. So what else was exciting? Anything else worth chatting about?
We were talking about China.
India
is a big market. So, and then I guess some other things at the beginning we covered.
The good news for UK customers, right? I don't know if we caught that. That was tied to the India market, where the right-hand deliveries will actually be built in July. And that to me is good news. That means Fisker's on track to build the right-hand drive vehicles. And I did see last week Henrik responding to somebody on Instagram about a customer said, hey, when can we expect deliveries here in the UK? And he said July as planned. So being the market's so close, UK and Graz, Austria, they could build and deliver all in the same month. So that's good for Ocean One customers there and customers in general.
All right.
Yeah. Was there any questions in the chat, in the YouTube chat, that people wanted more clarity on, or that obviously we probably can't provide more clarity, but we can have commentary around it? I don't know if there was anything there.
Yeah, I see a comment. Somebody was asking about why there's not a single review from professional journalists. And I think we had, I guess we're going to see that in July, correct?
Yeah, but there are professional journalists. Yeah, I'm not a professional journalist by any means, but there are professional journalists that actually have reviewed the Fisker Ocean. I was there and I actually met them. We saw people from Bloomberg. We saw people from, I want to say it was a Motor Trend, I think it was the other one. There was I don't know, we were in a cohort of like 5 or 6 different journalists that are professional journalists. They do this for a living, day in and day out. I just do this, as most people probably know, for a hobby, but I was fortunate enough to be a part of the experience and super grateful for it. And I wrote my review, my first look of the Fisker Ocean, but there was, I'd say, at least 10 professional journalists. It's just not, it wasn't a production vehicle. It was a pre-production vehicle. So
I think that's what they want to see now.
Things have changed a little bit. I think things have only gotten better. I think that's going to be everyone's expectation, mine included. I've tested a pre-production one on a racetrack, and now I'm going to get to test drive and own mine maybe later this month, early July, and I'll get to go do the same type of stuff. To some extent, I'm not gonna drive recklessly, and I'm not gonna have I'm not gonna be able to do the moose test or the slalom course in the real world. I don't know how you could kind of do that maybe on a closed street somewhere, Then also too, the totally slick ice simulated at Magna Stereo being just the ground covered in water. And does the vehicle hydroplane? Does it, grab, the traction control, stick into place or come into effect? Some things you can't really do on, public roads. But like you said, Matt, we're going to have lots of videos because it's fun. It's going to be fun to do. This is the first time I've ever been able to purchase a car and follow it from, the very beginning to the end. I got to test drive it before it actually came on the public roads, and now I'm going to get to drive one on the public roads. And yeah, it's going to be fun just to document this. And we obviously have people that are interested in looking at it. So I'd say it's probably one of the most fun hobbies I've ever had an opportunity to do. I've had a lot of hobbies, and this is by far a fun one. And other people get to experience it with us, which is cool.
Yeah, building a community kind of from scratch. And I was, my little comment on my Instagram is always, we're building a global brand, and that's what Fisker is doing. Launching in 2 continents and getting ready to attack the Asian market. I think that is a great start. I mean, we're going to be licensed to sell in 20 countries, some crazy number. I think you've blogged on it, but it's entering a lot of markets all at the same time, and it's just going to be a matter of how quickly can we build them and get them in people's hands. I think that's going to be I think the car's going to be a hit.
Yeah, the dual homologation was the strategy Henrik mentioned at the beginning. He said we're the only startup to do that, and that gives them some flexibility. If sales are booming in Europe, they can sell more cars there in whatever markets. It's 9 launch markets, and then they could also sell some here as well. And then the China market opens them up quite a bit too. If, to your point, Matt, import them from Graz, or if they have to build them with the Magna joint venture on local soil. But yeah, lots of flexibility. A super exciting time. I'm excited about it. I think it's fun to kind of see this go through. And, we were a part of the, listening as 3 shareholders listening to the Fisker's 2023 annual meeting of shareholders. And, the stock price, is volatile, I would say, and it goes up and down, and none of us know which direction it's going to go. And, all we can do is just kind of, be, champions and, do what we can do as, customers and people interested in the product itself. And shareholders, we may make out, we may not. And it is what it is, but it's cool to be able to be a customer and shareholder, be a part of the shareholder meeting, get additional information. And that information that Henrik provided in the Q&A, a lot of that actually was product related. That's what most people care about, is the product. And if Fisker builds a great product, an exceptional product, the company as a whole will do very, very well. They'll be very successful. And us who are shareholders will benefit from that. But it's all about the product and customer experience. And I think Fisker, from listening to that investor call, I think they obviously know that. So it's just a matter of, keep working hard and be smart and see kind of what happens. I think that's kind of where we all are from the sidelines,
That's it.
I got one more thing to add. The question 6, I think, was on the touchscreen lag, which I don't think he's talked about before. I think it's good that they're aware that that's a concern about the processor, and lag can be an issue in a lot of cars. I know VW had major problems with that with the ID4, and so I'm glad that they're aware of this as an issue. But I liked his answer. We'll see. He says wait for the delivery for final judgment. He doesn't feel that there's an issue, and that any software updates are always upgrading, adding new features, finding bugs, fixing bugs, and doing that. So hopefully I think another thing he said was the features, if they're written correctly, can overcome chip issues. So I think that's important to know too.
Yep, I wrote something similar. He said the system works amazingly. and it sounded like they've deep dived into more use cases and they've made improvements. So they've had continual time to continue to improve the software. And he says there's always room to improve. And we all know that, right? That's the whole point of the over-the-air updates, is the company can continuously iterate, make new features available. Like there's a bunch of features coming late 2023. And then also on top of that, they can fix bugs, right? I'm sure there's going to be bugs. We're going to see bugs. That's common in software development. Hopefully features that are super important won't have bugs, but I expect there to be bugs as an early adopter. We're gonna face some bugs, and we'll report those. And there might be a cool mechanism for reporting those. It might be like, hey Alexa, I have a bug, and this happened, and it might do like a screen capture and send that data to Fisker engineers to improve the software. So part of the process, it's totally part of the process, but those type of things are going to gain attention, I would imagine, much like the Tesla steering wheel falling off in some, for some customers or whatever. It's always the negative stuff that grabs the attention, and it is what it is. But like, I try to focus on the positive things.
I saw Electric posted a story this morning about a Rivian that caught fire while charging. And it makes for very dramatic photos, but we're not talking about hundreds of Rivians spontaneously combusting. We don't know what the story was on this particular car, but it makes for great headlines. And if you can overcome a steering wheel coming off, or like Toyota where the wheels came off the BZX4 or whatever it was, there's going to be hiccups. Hopefully nothing of that serious variety.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah, that's I've got a whole bunch of notes. I'll go ahead and write something up here with my notes. There wasn't I think we covered most of the stuff. I think we have actually at the beginning. I covered all the most interesting ones. Just going through the last minute. I'm most excited. Next most thing I'm excited for as a Fisker customer is obviously the delivery. The thing after that I'd be most excited for as a customer, someone who's reserved a Fisker PEAR, is going to this August 3rd inaugural investor event. That's going to be the next thing as an investor that I'm probably most excited about, and as a customer, because we get to see different vehicles, potentially different actual prototypes that are being built now. We might actually get to see the Force E at that inaugural investor event. That would be pretty cool to see a raised up, lifted, massive 33-inch wheels on a Fisker Ocean. That'd be pretty cool to see. So maybe we all can meet up there if that happens, and Fisker releases details in advance, give people time to plan if they are able to go. That'd be kind of a fun thing. We'll get to meet all the people that watch the show, and then all the people who don't like the show, and all those fun people. But it'll be a good time. I think it'll be fun, and hopefully a big positive event. And I look forward to that. And then the lounge coming up too as a customer, that'll be a fun experience. That going to the Fisker Lounge, if and when that opens this month, we got 24 days, and we'll check in with our contact next door at the clothing store, and we'll see if how construction's going. We'll find that out. I don't know if we need to do an all things Fisker tomorrow. We kind of got the recap today. I don't know if you guys want to do that or not. If you do, I'm happy to do it. If you don't, I'm happy to punt to the next week. What do you guys?
Yeah, I think we can skip this week's then.
Let's do
it. We covered quite a bit, and otherwise it'll just be a rehash of what we already talked about.
It will. Yeah, it'll be a rehash. Like we're waiting for deliveries. That's the big one.
Yeah, that's it.
I think this week people in Europe will actually get their delivery date, I believe, in Copenhagen. I think that is one of the things that I have written down, that I believe emails are supposed to go out the first week of June saying the specific date no longer the estimated range or time frame, but the specific day. So we may see some of that stuff pop up in the forums. Hopefully we do. The manual was a big one that we ended up hearing about. So the people that don't know about that, and you took, I don't know how many screenshots of the manual, Matt.
370 pages,
yeah,
I think it was.
And that manual is going to continue to be changed and iterative as well, right? Like the software. But the manual was a big one. I was shocked to see a link to that ahead of time. I think somebody in the forum, it was, I first saw it appear on the Fisker forum, and maybe they were just searching stuff online, type in, fiskerinc.com/.
They said they just bumped into it.
Yeah, that was super cool.
I don't know how you could just bump into it.
I know.
It seemed a fairly specific URL, but
super specific. But hey, it is what it is. I'm not gonna complain. It was cool to see that, and we get so much information that we haven't known about. So a lot of questions answered, and unfortunately, it brings more questions about certain features. I think the service interval was one of them, and the cost of servicing the vehicle. An EV is supposed to be a low cost for servicing, and you don't have to take it in every 6 months to be checked and things like that. So seeing something like that pop up in the manual was a little concerning. So maybe that's just a CYA, or maybe that's hey, we have to fix that. Maybe that was a typo, or who knows. So I mentioned that in an article that I wrote the other day in the This Week in Fisker article that I write some weekends. And maybe Fisker took a look at that thread. Maybe somebody did, maybe they didn't. And maybe they'll address that going forward. That's all that we can do here on this channel, is just create awareness. And it's not just awareness for Fisker customers, potential reservation holders, but also to bring things to Fisker's, Fisker Inc., Fisker employees, Henrik Fisker, bring to their attention some of the things we're talking about, some of the challenges that we're having as customers, potential customers, things like that. So it's kind of like a good, circular 360 communication that we can provide, and as a Fisker customer, as a Fisker shareholder, since that's what this was all about today, we can provide that sounding board for anyone that's willing to listen. So that's exciting.
I think these things filter through, and like you say, a good feedback loop from investors, from customers, and we happen to be both. But basically what you get is these comments, these concerns. They float up to to Facebook, to Fiskerati blog, to StockTwits, to where have you. And if I'm always on the lookout. If I see things, people asking over and over the same thing, you kind of make a note out of it. You post about it. You try to tag Fisker in it, and hopefully someone's watching us do something out here, because I do think we provide some value.
Yeah, that I would agree with you. Well, on that note, should we call it a day?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good.
I'm gonna go grab a martini. It's noon.
Lunchtime, right? Why not on Monday? So thank everybody. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for holding down the fort while I got my internet sorted out. This was recording a webcast live stream of the webcast. Fisker's 2023 annual meeting of shareholders was the third one. We got to listen for about an hour. Fisker talked about their business and answered a whole bunch of Q&A. Matt, Marty, and myself, Sean, we ended up doing some discussion and talked about our takeaways, and that's going to do it. So thank you, everybody, very much for joining. Greatly appreciate it. Thanks for everyone's support for coming out all these live streams. It's super fun to have you. Thank you very much.
Hey.
All right,
see ya.
Let's do this.